Hello, Central State Synod. I am Kristen Koch, your new Director for Evangelical Mission, and my call as DEM is to support the congregations in our Synod in areas of evangelism, mission, and vitality. Over April and May, Bishop Donna, Chad, and I visited each conference in the Synod for conversation and worship and prayer. During our time together, we talked about all of the changes that we're seeing in the church and in the world. Some of them were reflected in Dr. DeHoek's statistics that we saw earlier. And Chad created a great presentation for those gatherings that talks about some of the specific changes happening in our own Synod. And I encourage you to check that out. It will or is posted on the Synod website. And I want to pull out two themes from that presentation. The first is that the church is changing. It doesn't look or function the way it did even 20 years ago. But the church has always been changing. The church has always been called to change and adapt for the sake of sharing the good news of Jesus. The second theme is that God remains faithful in the midst of all of those changes. God makes a way out of no way. Or as Chad says in these presentations, God is always preparing tables in the wilderness. And as Bishop was saying earlier, the Central State Synod is adapting too, preparing for new models of ministry to meet this current reality. And at the heart of all of this adapting work is increasing the capacity of lay people to lead through training, support, and opportunities to serve. We heard Bishop Donna talk about her goals of 100 new lay leaders and Chad's goals of one PMA in every congregation or PMA in training. And I want to remind you all that forming and sustaining lay leadership doesn't even require a degree or a certificate or synod authorization. It begins with listening and witnessing. In Acts chapter 1, when the disciples asked Jesus if now is the time that he is going to restore the kingdom, Jesus redirects them and says, "You will be my witnesses." That call is ours as well. You have seen and experienced the good news of Jesus in your congregations. You have tasted Christ's presence in the bread and wine of Holy Communion. You have received God's forgiveness again and again. And that is all it takes to be a witness. Paying attention to how God is at work and then sharing how you have experienced that. So with that in mind, I have two goals. And the first one is that every member of all of our congregations feels equipped to listen to God, to your congregation, and to your neighbors. I want to help us learn how to pause and pay attention to where God is already moving in our daily lives. The second goal is that all of our members practice telling someone else the story of God's activity in their life. I want you to feel equipped to share your witness about how the forgiveness and love of Jesus has made a difference in your life. When we are grounded in these practices of listening and witnessing, we will have all the tools we need to try new things like building community outside our church walls, expanding pastoral leadership roles, sharing space with partners, or welcoming our neighbors in ways that stretch our imagination. And we as your Synod staff will walk with you as you faithfully experiment. And speaking of new things, last year the Assembly passed a resolution to explore, support, and fund new ministry starts. Since then, the New Start Task Force has been discerning the best ways we can do that. There is a summary report in your binder. It's section 5, page 1, or in the whole binder, the full binder PDF, it's page 56. And there is a lot more research that went into it. And so there is a full research document that will be available on the Synod site. In case you're wondering, well, did they think about this? Or I wonder if they, considered this option or that option. So we have that fuller, wider picture that will be available as well. But the conclusion of that research is that with the Synod funds and with church-wide grants, we could support one new ministry start of this particular time in the next year. And the recommendation is to focus again on Maize, Kansas, building on the groundwork already done last year, but was put on pause due to leadership transitions. So we need a mission developer to be identified for that site, but the foundation is strong. So that is one new thing. And at the same time, I want to encourage as many individuals to consider a ministry exploration. We'd like to have as many explorations going on as possible. And these explorations are a time when an individual goes into a community. Maybe they live there, maybe not. And they get to know the leaders, the movers, the shakers, and they listen. And they learn about this community to see what the community needs and how the church could respond. Explorations last 3 to 6 months and are mostly led by lay people. So who are gifted at connecting with new communities. And the gifts of these exploration leaders will be supported by the DEM and supported through coaching cohort. So if you have any excitement, if the idea of that is maybe stirring something within you, let me know and we can talk. Because the key to any new start in our synod is going to be raising up leaders, lay and ordained, who can listen, connect, and tell the story of what God is up to. So we are asking individuals and congregations and conferences to identify people who have these gifts for community listening and for faith sharing, who might be interested in tending the soil of a new ministry start. We also invite you to consider contributing to the New Start Fund. That is the $100,000 that was set aside at last Synod Assembly to contribute to that fund, to increase it so that we can support more new starts. You can consider it for your congregation or your own legacy planning. Siblings in Christ, God is preparing tables in the wilderness. God is doing a thing in our synod. And together as Jesus witnesses in this time and in this synod, we get to help set some of those tables. Thanks be to God.